Tim with Online Big Blue, bringing you the best in New York Giants sports talk and entertainment. Well, the schedule is out. The dates have been confirmed. NFL is talking about moving forward and opening everything up on May 15th, like we kind of already knew they were going to. We are going to do a schedule show the next day or two, but we are going to be doing it, and we are going to be on the Brooklyn Hit Squad 96 channel, and we will be doing we will be doing our schedule analysis with Mr. Hit Squad, doing a dual show again, but this time, like I said, he came on our show, so it's nothing but the reciprocal on our end that we would love to go on the Brooklyn Hit Squad 96 show, and that'll probably be, I would say, on Saturday of this week. So look out for Online Big Blue on the Brooklyn Hit Squad 96 show. So, like I said, we're not going to get into the schedule, but one of the things I was thinking about yesterday, and I was always looking for the Giants to come up with an impact defensive player. You know, someone that we haven't had in years. That's why I was so much, I had so much feeling of hope for Isaiah Simmons. I like I said, we had been Andrew Thomas fans for a long period of time. We predicted and projected them taking Andrew Thomas. But like I said, we were kind of hoping in the back of our minds that we were going to get an impact defensive player, because I would like to see the Giants return to the days of yore, to Carson, Banks, Taylor, and Reasons, and have George Martin on the front line with Burt and Marshall, and hell, even Eric Howard and Eric Dorsey, have that impact players. And I was thinking to myself, are there any candidates on our roster who could potentially be NFL Defensive Player of the Year? And I thought to myself, and I said, no, because that would just be freaking crazy. Even after the guys that we signed, that would be two towns over from Looneyville. But then I was doing some research, and like I said, we enjoyed the Blake Martinez signing. We actually wanted them to sign Blake Martinez. We did a video going back about it called the New York Giant Wild Cards. And two of the players we wanted them to sign were Blake Martinez and James Bradbury. Also, we wanted to sign Jason Pierre-Paul. But I was thinking, you know what? Maybe it's not as crazy as it sounds that we might have a defensive MVP on the team. Now, let me preface this right now by saying, do I think it's going to happen? I would say the odds are 20%, 30% that it will happen. But here's the thing about Blake. One of the things that I was against Blake with is the fact that he had a regression from 18 to 19. And we watched, and he seemed to be making, especially in 19, he seemed to be making most of his tackles at the second level, which is not something you want to see your middle linebacker do. You don't want to see him, making tackles making tackles 7 yards down the field. And we watched a lot of film on it, and I went back and I pulled up our DirecTV DVR, and we DVR all the games, and I pulled out the Green Bay games, and I took a look at about 8 of them. And it was interesting that if you take a look at it, it doesn't seem to be that Blake was in the same position to make the plays that he was in 2018 when Patrick Graham was coaching him. Now, if you take a look just statistically, the breakdown between the 2 years, you would think, well, and between 18 and 19, let's see, 18 he only had 144 tackles to 155. In 19, he only had 92 to 97. He had only 52 tackles, 52 assists to 58. And the only difference is he had 2 more sacks in 18 than he did in 19. So you would think, statistically looking, he had a better year, but actually in 19 he did not have a better year. His pass coverage skills diminished. He was 8th overall among starting linebackers in coverage. And again, this is Pro Football Focus, so take it with a grain of salt like I do. But he was 8th overall in pass coverage for starting linebackers in 18. He dropped down to like 59th in 19. But if you watch if you watch the footage between 18 and 19, you can see his overall positioning in the in the defense. He was not. He just didn't seem like he just didn't. He never seemed like he was set, and he never seemed like he was the same player that he was in 18 to make the tackles, to make the big tackles, to make the tackles at for a loss or at the line of scrimmage. He seemed like his position was he was flowing more, towards the defensive backfield and trying to mop up what was missed coming out of the first line. Which his style of play, if you watched from 18, he had more of an attacking style of play. And to me, he was put into more of a position to cover properly either the tight end or the running back coming out of the backfield. And it just seems that to me that Patrick Graham, who was the linebacker coach, really got more out of his talent in 18 than he did in 19, or even going back into 17. Like I said, he had a really bad year in 17 in pass coverage. But like I said, he improved dramatically, into 18, which I have to laugh because you have to sit there and think, well, what was the change between 17 and 18 that he improved dramatically and slid back down again in 19? And to me, the common denominator is Patrick Graham. It's the same thing with Marcus Golden. James Betcher, Golden over in Arizona excelled in Betcher's defense. But once Betcher left, he had the injuries, but his production dropped off. And then he gets back to a 10-sack season the 1 year he's in New York, and lo and behold, who's the defensive coordinator? So I'm thinking to myself, maybe the golden ticket for us to have Blake return not only to his elite level in making the tackles, because he is a sure tackler. He is a sure. As the sun rises and the sun setting, that's how sure of a tackler this guy is. But like I said, he just needs to be positioned in the right area. And I was looking at it, like I said, his career best for sacks was in 18 when he had 5, because he seemed to have more focus and he seemed like he was actually more attacking the line of scrimmage. I watched a game, it was 18 against the Atlanta Falcons, and he had a season-high 12 tackles. 11 of them were solo. That's pretty freaking awesome. That means he was that means there was no pylon stats. And everyone knows what a pylon tackle is you basically, the play's already stopped and a defensive player just jumps on the pylon and he's credited with an assist. Or sometimes even a tackle. So, I think it's, like I said, and then I think it's just interesting also because if you go back into 19, he had a game in 2019, in week 7 against the Raiders, where he made a team-high 16 tackles, and he forced the fumble off of Derek Carr in the end zone, causing a touchback. And it was a blowout win. So like I said, I never really thought much of it. But like I said, but for some reason, the game in Atlanta, to me, was a better game, even though he had 4 less tackles and he had a forced fumble in 19. He seemed to play the game better positionally. So I was thinking, if you're putting James Patrick in the defensive coordinator position now, and you are going to allow Blake Martinez to be your field general, I don't see why he can't put together a stellar season. Yeah, he does not have the rush on the edge that's going to be needed, but he's got the hog mollies up front that are going to stop the run. So he can actually kind of sneak in a little bit more to the line. He can sneak in a little closer to the line of scrimmage. And putting a player like Blake Martinez into the line of scrimmage and sending him to attack, it's going to remind me of maybe Zach Thomas in his early days in Miami. Where Zach attack, was just all over the field. And I had the pleasure to see Zach play many games in person and on field level. And I feel that he could potentially have the same type of impact that Zach had on the Miami defense. Now, does that translate into a defensive MVP? Maybe not. But like I said, if you go back and look at Zach Thomas was a machine. I mean, Zach Thomas was 150, 128, 137, 134, 155, 156, 153, 145, 162, 165. I mean, but a lot of his, and again, like Blake, a lot of his tackles were solo tackles. But when you're playing the middle linebacker position, unless you're Harry Carson, you're not going to get much consideration for defensive, MVP. But I have a feeling, like Landon Collins did, that his one big year, he can change the mold of the linebacker position for the Giants as a middle linebacker. Blake Martinez can more be on the attacking end, can play closer to the line of scrimmage, and I think, like I said, he could be put into a better position to cover the tight end and to cover the running back coming out of the defensive backfield. I really think that he potentially could have that. But again, I hate when the music just all of a sudden just pops up and comes on in. But we're not ending just yet. We're going to end in a minute. That was my friend coming in a little early with the music, because I guess he thought that we had talked enough. But I'm sorry there, my friend. We have not talked enough yet. We're going to talk for a few more minutes, and then we're going to bring the music back in. But like I said, I just think that he could really re-engineer the thought of the middle linebacker for the Giants, almost even going back to like Harry Carson. Now, of course, Harry Carson was a Pro Bowler, perennial Pro Bowler, and a Pro Hall of Famer. So I'm not saying that he is going to fill the shoes of Harry Carson, but I think he could be a different linebacker. I think he can be he's smart enough to be the general. He's smart enough to understand how and when to attack, and I think his familiarity with James Patrick is going to make him a dangerous combination. Now, does that add up to a NFL defensive MVP? I don't know, but you know what? I can see anywhere between 144 to 166 tackles, maybe 5 to 7 sacks, because we are going to need to try to generate a pass rush from somewhere, and maybe 2 to 3 interceptions. And I think coming from the middle linebacker position, if the Giants can compete and stay at 7-9 or 9-7, I think he will have some serious contention to be an NFL defensive MVP. And again, this is Tim with Online Big Blue, bringing you the best in New York Giants sports talk and entertainment. As always, if you could if you could subscribe, if you could ring the bell, if you could let the cat out, that would be awesome.